Aladdin. Now, this is what I call a fan favorite. As it was released in 1992, this movie is often considered as one of the golden films of the Disney Renaissance, next to The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and The Lion King. However, unlike those movies, it's not necessarily because of the way that it would push animation or storytelling to a brand new level, but rather how audiences would have so much fun with this film with the musical numbers, the characters, and all different sorts of magic and adventure that Al would get into. Even animation legend Chuck Jones himself called this the funniest movie ever, and this is from the guy credited to make some of the greatest Looney Tunes cartoons. It was a massive box office hit, a major awards collector, and would be the one to initiate all those direct-to-video Disney sequels, with Return of Jafar being the first. It even brought out a successful Broadway musical and an animated series that still has a cult following. So for Disney, Aladdin is an entire treasure in itself. But now that we set off to Agrabah to listen to one of the tales from 1001 Nights, will this movie be like a wish that's been granted? Or will this feel like it was made by a bunch of street rats? Let's find out. The story. It's not easy figuring out where to categorize this movie in terms of its story, but after some good thought, at least by the way I see it, this would be a boy meets girl story with a lot of layers. In its core, it's about the love story of Aladdin and Jasmine, where the guy would do everything he can to be with the lovely girl he met, who just so happens to be the princess, sprinkled with some Arabian theming across his journey. Sure, it does sound like your generic romance plot, but that's exactly why the movie is clever enough to fill that void with its execution. Throughout the feature, it would let the comedy be the main driving force, allowing it to have a fast pace so that it could manage to deliver all that it wants in just 90 minutes. For some movies, that's a major risk, since that would mean if the comedy doesn't work, then neither would the film. But for Aladdin, it would pay off very well, since the gags are mostly given to the hands of great comedians and animators who know how to handle the quick delivery of the jokes in a large quantity. On top of that, the humor would also come in a variety of styles to make sure that each of them can still feel fresh, giving the audience a good laugh from beginning to end.
Wish fulfillment?
3 wishes to be exact. An ixnay on the wishing for more wishes. That's it. 3. 1, 2, 3. No substitutions, exchanges, or refund.
Now I know I'm dreaming.
But this fast pace doesn't just benefit the comedy. There are also a few scenes that would have some action to help pick up some intensity and to put the stakes high to have the audience more engaged in seeing how Aladdin would get himself out of a sticky situation. However, this isn't just about the jokes or the love. There is also one theme that helps give the movie some strong substance, and that is freedom. Of course, the most prominent is Genie's personal wish, but other characters are also pursuing freedom from their own lifestyles and to be viewed as a respected individual.
That's better than here. You're always scraping for food and ducking the guards.
You're not free to make your own choices.
Sometimes you feel so...
You're just...
trapped.
There's only so much you can do with a love story, but thanks to the Arabian twist and all the other elements, it's a story that can deliver a lot and deliver them well. The animation. While there is a lot to admire in Aladdin's animation, the one component that could stand this one out over all the other animated films by Disney is the use of color. Throughout the film, it presents a very limited color palette, yet it manages to make the most out of what it has. The colors aren't just to emphasize the Arabian tone, but also to clarify the mood of the scene. The most used would be blue for times of mystery and wonder, pink for love and compassion, red for danger, and yellow for excitement to present something to behold. This is also prominent when the background contains little details to have the colors be more presentable than the contents of Agrabah. There are even times when these colors would be so prominent that some scenes could be considered monotone to have both the color and the mood to take center stage.
Someday, Abu, things are gonna change. We'll be rich, live in a palace, and never have any problems at all.
But it wouldn't be just the use of color that makes the visuals here unique. There is also the character animation, where it would distinguish the ones more vital to the plot as more serious and move more realistically, while the more comedic roles would go cartoonier with more emphasis on squash and stretch along with more broad poses, allowing the animators to play a lot with the creativity, especially with Ari Goldberg's work on the genie. However, while drastically different from each other, the film still manages to maintain the styles fit in one world, where nothing would feel out of place and suited well for each respective character.
Dost mine ears deceive me? 3? You are down by 1, boy!
No, I never actually wished to get out of the cave. You did that on your own.
Even with the designs, the same use of different styles can be applied here, where some stick to a more realistic anatomy and stay down to earth, while the others are drawn in a way so that they can be more expressive even when they don't talk. Also, there would be some use of computer animation, especially with the Cave of Wonders and some of the backgrounds. Some may argue that it is primitive, especially when this is from the early 1990s, but thanks to the movie's lack of detail, it makes the limited use work and even hardly noticeable where it blends well with the hand-drawn components. There are a lot of top quality elements where it is noticeable how the animators had a lot of fun with them, but the animation is a great example of making the most out of the little materials you're offered. The characters. Considering how many recent animated films aim to be a lot more comical, Aladdin can be viewed as the one that animated movies wish they could be. Or as the genie said it best,
But never duplicated!
This is all because this movie contains some of the best and most memorable comic reliefs ever done by Disney, on top of maintaining 4 of them where they are all hilarious show stealers. Like I said before about the comedy, what makes them work is thanks to the comedians that lend their voices and the animators who can pull off all that rapid-fire humor while presenting their own comedic style. They include Robin Williams' sharply quick wit and use of pop culture references as the genie, Gilbert Gottfried's cynical and sarcastic comments as Iago, bringing to life and giving personality to an inanimate object like the magic carpet, and the expressive remarks of Abu. There are very few movies out there that can manage to pull off these funny sidekicks both in quantity and quality, and Aladdin is one of those that set a very high standard for that. However, this is not to say that the other characters are not worth mentioning. While the funny ones may be one of the movie's big highlights, the more main characters can still stand strong on their own. Aladdin is often described as the street rat with a heart of gold. But maybe a more precise description would be that he's a kind soul who's only doing what he can in order to survive. He doesn't have money, so he has no choice but to steal to get what he wants while avoiding the guards. It wouldn't be until he meets Jasmine where he ends up in a dilemma where he would have to figure out how far he'll go in the name of love. Speaking of Jasmine, she's the daughter of the bubbly sultan who wants to be treated as a person rather than a trophy or a prize, since she would have to marry soon by law. When the discussion of marriage would be brought up, she would stand her ground on what she feels is right, and would even be aggressive to get the point across. And then there's Jafar, the royal vizier who aims to overthrow the palace to become the ruler of Agrabah. He begins by using little tricks and manipulation to get what he wants, but once he gets hold of unlimited power by the movie's climax, that's when he becomes a lot more threatening as a villain. If there would be one criticism I would give to them, there would be times when some of the acting can go over the top. Sure, the comics would get a pass on that, but there are moments when the tone can get really hammy by making it feel melodramatic.
My most abject and humblest apologies to you as well, Princess.
At least some good will come of my being forced to marry. When I am queen, I will have the power to get rid of you.
But thankfully, those are far and few between. And with a movie like this, you ain't never had a friend like these characters. The songs. Ah yes, another highly beloved element from this movie, and this one is all thanks to the musical talents of Howard Ashman, Alan Menken, and Tim Rice. In fact, this all began as Howard's idea of turning Aladdin and the Magic Lamp as an animated musical. However, due to his unfortunate passing in 1991, Tim Rice had to step in to finish Ashman's job with Alan. This results in highly enjoyable and grand Broadway-style musical numbers that help make the movie feel larger than life and complements the tone very well. Some would share that same fast pace in order to give a good amount of energy with songs like One Jump Ahead and Friend Like Me.
One jump ahead of the law, man. That's all, and that's no joke. These guys don't appreciate I'm pro.
Don't forget, I'm here to answer all your business prayers. You got me bona fide certified. You got a genie for a charge to fail.
There are also songs that stay true to the Arabian theme to enhance the setting, like the opener with Arabian Nights and Prince Ali.
Arabian Nights, like Arabian days. They're the wait in the old bazaar. Hey, you, let us through. It's a bright new star. Oh, come be the first on your block to meet his eye.
And then there's a whole new world. The one that is unique among them by going more towards the theme of freedom and translated as a love ballad for Aladdin and Jasmine.
Soaring, tumbling, freewheeling through an endless diamond sky.
Even the reprises are noteworthy for presenting a whole different tone from the original numbers, with the one for One Jump Ahead showing Aladdin's longing, and the one for Prince Ali to let out Jafar's more maniacal side and act as the movie's villain song.
Riff-raff, street rat, I don't buy that. If only they'd look closer.
His assets frozen, the venue chosen is the ends of the earth.
With each musical number being an engaging and memorable moment of the film, the songs are an important element to help this movie be brought to Disney's legendary status. Among all the animated films by Disney, Aladdin is one of their most fun and enjoyable features they've ever created. Not only is it highly entertaining with the unforgettable songs, an engaging fast pace, and amazing humor, but it is also a very solid animated feature in itself with great animation, strong use of color, well-crafted characters, and a story that can consistently deliver so much for a 90-minute movie. This is one of those films where you can never go wrong by picking this one. If you're ever looking for a feel-good movie and just want to have fun, then this is one of my top recommendations. When looking back, this isn't just one of Disney's best in their renaissance, but probably also one of Disney's most influential films. The one that really set a new standard for animated films to come. And with a legacy like Aladdin's, then I'm sure I've granted some wishes by giving this the AniMat's seal of approval.
Oh, all of you, come over here. Big group hug. Group hug. Oh, do you mind if I kiss the monkey? Mwah. Oh, hairball.
Hey guys, this is AniMat, and I want to start things off by giving out a huge thanks to Justin Kennan for his amazing support on Patreon, which allowed him to get a lot of amazing rewards, including this one, where he asked me to go and review Aladdin, and I definitely had a blast with this one. In fact, by the time that I am recording this is probably the first time that I checked one of the Disney Renaissance movies that's actually considered one of the legendary ones. Like, I have looked upon many of them, especially the later ones, but this is one of the first that I actually get to do a review of one of the more well-known ones. The ones that are considered like the massive legendary Disney classics. So hopefully more of them will come because I absolutely adore those movies as well, especially with Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. But also getting a chance to review Aladdin, it definitely was great, and it definitely was a lot of fun, especially when watching it as well. But there is one thing that is very interesting to discuss about Aladdin. Not only is it regarded as one of Disney's best and one of Disney's most enjoyable animated films they've done, but also it's actually one of their most controversial movies. Now, this is actually something that Disney doesn't really want you to know about, but it's actually pretty prominent in terms of some of the changes that they have done, although rather minor, but it really is noticeable that at one point, they actually did get in trouble with this interpretation of Aladdin. Probably the most infamous of them all that they had to do a change for the following versions to come would actually be with the song Arabian Nights, where it used to be one of the lines, it was where they cut off your ear when they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home. But then suddenly they had to switch it up with a poorly dubbed version. Like, you could tell that it was someone else that had to come in, where I forgot what it was, but it's like, where it's flat and immense and the heat is intense. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home. Like, you could tell that it's totally not that person who actually did that voice. In fact, like, go ahead and take a listen.
Where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home. Where it's flat and immense and the heat is intense. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
Like, you can totally hear the difference between the two, right? It's almost ridiculous the way that the new version just sounds a bit sloppy, and that they didn't actually bring back the same person to actually do the line, or to even to blend it well with the entire song in general. But there isn't that caused some controversy as well. There is a little bit of a race issue within Aladdin as well, where there have been some people, especially Arabic communities, that were not necessarily cool with the portrayal of many people in the movie, especially when Aladdin and Jasmine are portrayed as the pretty people. They have lighter skin, while literally every other person in the movie is just more caricaturized. They're grotesque, and like, they're very mean-spirited. I mean, like, these caricatures really do emphasize when they cut off your ear when they don't like your face. And this definitely was something that, even though they didn't necessarily make any changes in the movie itself in future versions, but you could tell that Disney did learn their lesson for their following films. In fact, with directors John Musker and Ron Clements, who did direct Aladdin, later on when they would do The Princess and the Frog, you could tell that they want to make sure they want to get the racial aspect right by having Tiana from The Princess and the Frog have a darker skin than the villain, Dr. Facilier. So, again, this is more of an interesting thing that Disney doesn't necessarily want you to know about regarding some of the mistakes that they've had, but at least they did learn their lesson. They have moved on and grew from their mistakes that they've done in the past. And at least one good thing about Aladdin is that even though it is one of their more controversial animated films, at least unlike Song of the South, they are more than happy to prominently present Aladdin. Alright, so with all that said and done, now that we are pretty much finished off with this Aladdin, it is now time that we shall go and move on to a Patreon request. And this time, it shall be from Nick J. So, I just want to start things off by saying that if you guys would like to be like Justin and Nick, and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards at the same time, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is just go ahead and write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. So, the big question is now, what is it specifically that Nick J went to go and ask me to go and review? Well, for this one in particular, I would like to say that this is another great animated feature, so that is good news. But the funny thing is with this one is that it actually went up and above what Aladdin has done in terms of getting positive reviews. In fact, this is so critically acclaimed that it actually still stands as the best reviewed movie, or the best reviewed animated movie in history on Rotten Tomatoes. I can't really say best reviewed movie ever. Like, it had that title, but then, well, Paddington 2 kind of broke that record already.
made you look.